Okay, we're going to go into property value and appraisal, the concept of value. There are many types of values used for any given property, but the most significant type of value for real estate is market value. Market value is defined as the price a willing seller will sell for and the price a willing buyer will pay when neither is acting under exceptional pressure. There are four basic characteristics of value, and it's called dust. So you can remember them as dust. Demand. There must be a demand for the item and purchasing power to require it. Utility. The item must be needed or wanted. Scarcity. There must be a limited supply. Transferability. The item must be able to be sold. Okay, so one of the first parts is you have to get an appraisal, and an appraisal is pretty much an opinion. It is an estimate of the value of the property. The accuracy of the appraisal depends on the integrity and the competency of the appraiser and the availability of the needed information. Appraisers use principle of value to help them arrive at their final opinion. We have appraisal principles. The first one is highest and best use. The legal use that gives you the greatest return in money and amenities. Highest and best use can be considered the most important detail by an appraiser. Principle of substitution. Principle of substitution sets an upper limit on price. The maximum value of the property is set by the cost of acquiring a similar or substitute property. The principle is used to demonstrate the need to price correctly. An overpriced property will not sell. You have the principle of conformity. The principle of conformity states that the maximum value is found when properties are the same or have a reasonable degree of similarity. You have the principle of increasing and decreasing returns. Invest in a property whenever each dollar invested will return a dollar or more of increased value, and stop when each dollar invested returns less than a dollar in value. Do not over-improve a property. Property of contribution. The property of a part is determined by its contribution to the value of the property rather than its cost. I think that's the value of a property is determined by the contribution of total value of the property rather than the cost. Principle of regression. The presence of lower value or declining value properties in a neighborhood leads to the decline in the value of your property. Conversely, the presence of a higher value property will increase the value of your property, and this is called progression. So it's really two of these. You have the principle of regression, which means that when properties begin to like lose their value, or they begin to like build cheaper properties in a neighborhood, it drives down the cost. But on the flip side, you have progression. When people begin to collectively like invest in the houses in a community, it drives up the price. You have the principle of competition. An increase in competition will result in a decreased profits for current providers. Competition, lower prices. Success leads to competition. For example, a very profitable restaurant will usually find a competitor opening nearby. Principle of change. Change is constant and reflected in values. Appraiser must make adjustments to changes in the market conditions and for a time. An appraisal is only considered to be good for 6 months. An appraisal is only considered to be good for 6 months. Sounds important. The principle of anticipation. Purchase price is affected by the expectation of future appeal and benefits. So the principle of anticipation, purchase price is affected by the expectation of future appeal and benefits. The principle of balance, mixed land use should result in maximum value for all properties involved. So master plan communities demonstrate this principle. So you have the appraisal process. The appraisal process is as such. 1, state the purpose of the appraisal. 2, collect and verify information about the property. 3, estimate the value using all 3 approaches, or as many approaches as needed to get the best result. 4, reconcile the estimates by determining weighted averages. This is important because step 3 will result in different values. Reconciliation completes the process to determine an exact number rather than a range of value. Number 5 is prepare the report. You have an organization called Ferrera. It is the Financial Institution Reform, Recovery, and Enforcement Act, which was passed to regulate the appraisal industry nationwide. All appraisers must adhere to the uniform standards of professional appraisals practices, outlining how appraisals are developed and communicated. USPAP. Methods of estimating value and broker price opinions. Market data approach used in residential appraisals. It involves comparing a property to similar house sales in the same area. An appraisal should have 3 to 5 sales no more than 6 months old. You have cost approach. Cost approach is used for new or unique properties like churches and government buildings. Also, when there is no comparables. Land plus building reproduction costs minus depreciation equals the value of the property. Land value plus replacement costs minus depreciation equals the value of the property. One of the final ones is comparative market analysis. Tools used by licensees to help sellers determine a realistic price for their property. A CMA compares a subject property to a current listing, recent sales, and even expired listings of unsold properties. The information from expired listings is the least important part of the CMA. The result of a CMA is a range of prices rather than an exact price. A CMA is not an appraisal, but more of a price analysis. And from my understanding, the CMA is what the real estate agents and brokers use